to the Paranorm Girl podcast. I am your host, Kristen. The year is 1970-something. A young boy in Brantley, Alabama, was wandering out in the woods along the nearby Conecuh River. He suddenly stopped as his eyes landed on something very strange in the sandbar. Very large, very distinct, human-like footprints. But they definitely weren't human at 19 inches long, 9 inches wide. The equivalent of a men's size 37. This young boy would later mention what he had seen quietly to a fellow patron at the local hardware store. Unbeknownst to him, another patron would overhear the conversation and then quickly and quietly exit the store under his breath going, tee-hee-hee-hee. This other patron was Eugene Hendrick, an artist and Brantley native. He got a wild hair up his hooey one day, he says, after seeing a news story about a Bigfoot hoax perpetrated in Oregon involving someone in a gorilla suit, and he wanted to do something about Sasquatch. So he cut out some wooden feet, strapped them on his shoes, and off he went to leave the tracks along the bank of the river. He says he even made claw marks in the trees to help sell it. And this decision would spark a lasting local legend in the town of Brantley, an almost 50-year-long belief in its residents that something lurked in and around their town. There in the beginning, it sparked a lot of fear. So much so, the police would get involved, and tracking dogs. And seeing the hectic heights it quickly rose to, Hendrick backed into the bushes like Homer Simpson and put his giant feet away. It wouldn't be until 2017 that he finally came clean. Now, luckily for him, by this time, the residents, their reaction was one of relief and humor, maybe a little admiration for having pulled it off. The locals have even capitalized on the local legend of the Conecuh River Sasquatch and have kept it going with merchandise and monster burgers and a life-size Sasquatch statue, which Hendrick was asked to paint, bringing it all full circle. Look how easy, how simple it can be to stir the imagination of your fellow human. Hendrick had to be creative, of course, using a boat down the river so as not to leave his own tracks in and out, using a long stick to leave the scratches. He had to think it through and have a plan of attack. It's actually impressive, really. It is no secret, though, that many people have played Bigfoot pranks, perpetrated hoaxes, all in the name of fun or a laugh or attention, and also greed. When we think of a track or Bigfoot hoaxer, we tend to think of them in a certain light, don't we? A certain level of intelligence, a certain level of laziness, since obviously they've got nothing better to do. We question, why do something like this in the first place? What's the draw? What's the payoff, say, if you never admit to it, unlike Hendrick? And for those who have actually spent a good amount of time studying this subject, studying and understanding what the evidence is actually saying, taking the time to recognize the smallest of details that points to legitimacy, a story like this is a major blow. It's unnecessary tarnish on a pursuit many would like to eventually see taken seriously by science. Researchers have literally given up a majority of their lives to this pursuit because they have seen or heard enough valid evidence they can no longer deny that there is something here. Can't the hoaxers see the harm they are doing? Last season, I did a 2-part segment on crop circles. I spoke at length about the circle makers, their motivations behind doing them, their techniques. I also spoke about the literal impossibility that some circles could be made by a human being. They just couldn't. And, of course, I think we've hit upon more than enough examples of that being the case this season with Sasquatch and the evidence that they leave behind. But we are not focusing on those today. Today, we are solely focusing on the hoaxers themselves. the hoaxes they have perpetrated, and why they do what they do. I don't wonder, though, if some of the same motivations of the circle makers, strange as some of it was, don't also lie with some of our human track makers. But I can tell you here at the start, when a Bigfoot hoax isn't being done in the name of fun and laughter, there can be a certain level of yuck to it, and it really pisses me off. And it does a great deal more damage to the subject than something done for a joke. 3 years ago, almost exactly, the Bigfoot channel Arkansas Bigfoot released a video admitting they had hoaxed some recent trail cam evidence. Footage of their camera being knocked down and the visual of a black hand. A hand they claimed belonged to a Bigfoot they interacted with named Junior. That capture was taken down pretty quickly, and up went their admission tape. The footage was fake. They did it. They had hit a plateau with their usual activity and felt pressure to post something, but took it down because it was the right thing to do. I wonder if someone hadn't caught the image of the human wearing the black glove as the camera fell, if they hadn't contacted them, letting them know they'd just been caught, letting them know they needed to make it right. I wonder how much longer that video would have stayed up and how many more subscribers and support they would have now. They're sitting at over 10K currently, so I think they have successfully moved past Black Glove Gate. Call of the Crow is the channel who caught them in the act. He posted a video with all of the details. You should watch it. I've linked it below. In his video, he also walks through Arkansas Bigfoot's admission tape, so you do get to see that, which is fortunate because upon my own searching for that original post on their page, it is now shockingly nowhere to be found. This hoax was also reintroduced into the public sphere about 8 months ago by the Tall Ones YouTube channel, who has videos up that calls out other Bigfoot groups for faking their evidence. Good stuff. Call it out when you see it. Call it out. In August of 2008, Matthew Whitten and Rick Dyer announced on the internet radio program Squatch Detective that they had the body of a dead Bigfoot. The two had been hiking in the North Georgia mountains months earlier when they stumbled upon a 7-foot, 7-inch, 500-pound dead Squatch. They said they spotted 3 other living ones just lurking about after making the discovery. They then spent a day and a half getting the creature out of the forest and into a freezer with the help of a few other people. They presented their frozen find at a press conference along with the self-described real Bigfoot hunter Tom Biscardi, who teamed up with the two to help promote the claim that what they had was a real corpse, saying at the conference, "Last weekend, I touched it. I measured its feet. I felt its intestines. His tune would be changing soon enough." As the corpse began to thaw, it became very evident to those inspecting it that it was fake. It was, in fact, a costume stuffed with roadkill, entrails, and slaughterhouse leftovers. Ugh. When it was revealed to be a hoax, Dyer would say that an unnamed government agency had confiscated the real body and he had to produce something, but of course, the people were counting on it. A short 4 years later, Dyer, obviously twisted up about the whole misunderstanding, went out and intentionally bagged one of the creatures, lured it in with barbecue pork ribs, and chased it down, shot it dead. It had already been inspected and claimed to be the real thing. Its DNA had been tested and claimed to be unknown. Time to go on tour and share this find with the world. For a nominal fee of $10, you could see Hank, the Bigfoot, in the flesh, inside of a wooden coffin, behind thick plexiglass. The tour sold out. But word started getting around about this weird dead Bigfoot thing Dyer had been involved with just years prior, and people began calling for more open testing of the corpse. This was not appreciated. Jeff Meldrum would say, "The thing has clearly been fabricated to depict a specimen that has been dissected. It smacks of images of alien autopsy." Ooh, Dr. Jeff, spitting facts, son. Donning shades. He ate, yo. He ate. I would also say it smacks of Minnesota Iceman, like, for sure. Dyer would be confronted by folks on his own team and a spokesperson for the tour and project who would write that after confronting him regarding the authenticity of the thing, Dyer admitted it wasn't real and he had paid someone to make it after lying to them about what he wanted it for. Said he needed it for a prop for a movie, took it on tour instead, made $500,000. But Dyer maintains that he did really kill a Bigfoot and has its body somewhere, but alas, cannot show it to anyone. 'Tis a shame. Now, obviously, I do not condone hoaxing for any reason. At its core, it is deceitful and it is manipulation, no matter the reason. I am glad that there was no backlash for Eugene Hendrick. It really was an artful creation in his mind, a little joke to be had, and then as soon as they let the dogs loose, he stepped back. He didn't perpetuate it any further. And then it all ended well and good. Nobody got hurt. Everybody had a laugh. Fine. But what about consequences for folks who do actual damage? Who mislead thousands of people with fake video evidence, who take money from the gullible and curious, all in the name of, again, a subject a lot of researchers and educators, investigators, scientists really feel is a legitimate pursuit. And you're ruining it. You're ruining its legitimacy by taking it too far or taking advantage of folks. Maybe consequences have to fall on those of us looking at the subject closely. We have to be the ones to call them out, to weed them out, to block out the riffraff. On Dyer's Wikipedia page, they quoted a deputy editor at Skeptical Inquirer, and it's been on my mind researching this one. He says, if Bigfoot researchers wish to be taken seriously, they could start by cleaning their own house. The biggest threat to their credibility is not skeptics nor a ridiculing public, but instead those who provide an endless stream of bogus claims and evidence. Cannot argue with that. You really cannot. So, it falls on Bigfooters, in it for the right reasons, to, like I said before, call it out when you see it. If not for yourself, do it for them. Hoaxers have had close calls and can potentially get hurt engaging in their prank, like really hurt, such as in this real-life example. In August of 2012, a Montana resident attempting to stage a Bigfoot sighting was hit by a car because he was standing in the road, dressed in a ghillie suit at night. As he lay in the roadway, he was then run over by a second car. It was not clear which car, the one driven by a 17-year-old girl or the one driven by a 15-year-old girl, who both are currently just living with the memory of what happened that night. But it was not clear which one actually rendered the man dead. Dead. All in hopes that he could trick people into calling in a sighting. I just don't think it was worth it. We're going to head into our final hoax for today, and we'll elaborate a little bit more on this one. But this is one of the most well-known, far-reaching, life-changing hoaxes to ever exist. So people say. That hoax is Bigfoot itself. Ray Wallace was a known prankster. He loved a good joke, a good laugh. This is how his family described him following his passing. There was nothing malicious about the pranks that he pulled. It was all in good fun. But is he really the creator of Bigfoot, as both his family and many debunkers will tell you? Let's explore this. In 1958, Caterpillar operator Jerry Crew discovered some massive footprints on the ground surrounding his machine. I covered this story early on in the season. If you want a refresher, go listen to my History of Sasquatch episode, link below. These footprints would end up causing quite the stir and help to launch Bigfoot into the mainstream. It's not that tracks had never been found before, and it's not that there were no encounter or sighting stories that predated this event, but this event was so dramatic and in your face. It was easy front page news, and it was shrouded in such an interesting mystery because it wasn't just footprints. It was local legend. It was stories that the loggers told each other. Footprints like these were seen on other work sites. It was 50-gallon drums of fuel and 700-pound tires being tossed about. It was stride lengths with prints sank to a remarkable depth beyond the capacity of a full-grown human male. Going up steep embankments, all happening in the middle of the night. Who was doing it? And how were they going undetected? Enter Bigfoot. Ray Wallace, being a known prankster, was openly accused right from go by the local sheriff of being behind it. His family, of course, believed him to be the creator of the tracks and perpetuator of the Bigfoot legend for the sake of a good prank, even saying that Ray would recruit some of the younger members of their family to go across the country in order to plant tracks in what would become well-known cases. He also had something to do with that Patterson-Gimlin film. Maybe he told Roger where to go see a Bigfoot. Maybe his wife was in the Patty suit. I don't know. Maybe. Other loggers at the time suspected him of creating the Bluff Creek tracks too, though they felt that he might have done it for the sake of the site's equipment and his workers' belongings in hopes that giant footprints would deter thieves. It was also suggested he did all of this in an effort to buy his operation time to fulfill their work contract because they were already falling behind. There is no doubt that Ray was a practical joker through and through, and there is no doubt that he was known for wild storytelling and for hawking ridiculous facsimiles of Bigfoot plaster casts and bundles of Bigfoot hair and wildly ridiculous fake photos and videos. There is no doubt that Ray was a hoaxer. Everyone in the Bigfoot field knew it. And that was the end of the story for popular media across the world. Happy to put a period on this whole tale and wrap it all up with a bow. But there are so many holes in the story that Ray was Bigfoot and that he had created the legend. Holes that go to a depth that not even the original Bluff Creek footprints themselves went. And they went deep. As to being accused and suspected by the local sheriff, an early investigation was conducted regarding Ray's involvement in the making of the tracks. It was dismissed fairly quickly because that was found to be impossible. As a matter of fact, not one person has ever been able to demonstrate how these tracks were faked. Even with the $1,000 offer on the table at the time, a $5,000 offer made by John Green, or a $100,000 offer made by the Willow Creek Museum. Not one person has ever claimed these prizes. And these were genuine offers. In addition and support of his non-involvement, Ray himself according to early newspaper articles written about the event, was frustrated about the tracks and the stir they were causing. They were disrupting the job, impeding his contract's progress, losing him, his crew members, literally. Men were walking off the job and costing him money. As to the men and other loggers who suspected and speculated that he made the tracks, other employees and men from the site, ones who witnessed the tracks in 1958, would also mention that Ray was rarely on site. He was often based out of Willow Creek, hours away, and he was usually just out of the region entirely, looking for future contracts. As to his family revealing, only after his death, that Ray was behind the whole thing. They always knew it was him. They had uncovered a secret stash of his wooden feet. They had the pair that he used at Bluff Creek. He had faked photos and videos. Their mother was often his actor and dressed up in a gorilla suit. Maybe she was Patty. We're not saying, but, we're kind of saying. So, I have recently enjoyed one of Ray's cinematic creations with his wife. Suffice it to say, there is no comparison. His wife was 100% not Patty. The costume is not Patty. The height is wrong. The sleeves are all bunched up with elastic at the wrists, and someone overlooked the need to cover her very pasty white and obviously human hands while she, for some reason, slaps aimlessly at water for like 30 seconds straight. It's a fun one. You should check it out. She was not Patty. Okay, well, then he at least told Roger where to go film a Bigfoot. That's how he's involved. He told him exactly where to go film a Bigfoot. Super suspicious, right? No. According to John Green, a description of the area Ray included in a letter to another researcher made it crystal clear Ray didn't know where the place was or what it even looked like. As to his collection of hidden Bigfoot feet, they were not hidden. Ray had them displayed on his walls for years. As to his collection and hawking of various Bigfoot oddities and wild tales of gold mines and feeding them apples out of his window and faked print casts, look, it was only later that he seemed to begin to like the attention Bigfoot was getting him. And it was only later down the road that he even purchased his first pair of wooden feet from his neighbor, Rant Mullins. Rant Mullins, the man who said he was responsible for the Ape Canyon incident. Not getting into that today. But his family was right. By the time of his death, he had a collection of fake wooden feet. And while it is entirely possible, no, not possible, while it is likely he would go out and create fake trackways, some of which may have been cast by researchers at some point, some of which may have been considered genuine at the time. I mean, we didn't know what we were looking at in the 50s and 60s, after all. Again, the fake feet came later, and none of his collection that has been shown publicly match the original Bluff Creek tracks. The particular pair of wooden feet the Wallace family claimed in the media were used by Ray in the Bluff Creek event do not match the Bluff Creek tracks. So why would the Wallace family push this claim? Why would they lie? While I am understanding that there was a situation for financial gain after selling the rights to his life story and what they suspected was his involvement to Hollywood, I don't actually think they were trying to be deceptive. I think they thought they were telling the truth. If you're sitting on the side of the Wallace family, you grow up with this character of a father. The Bluff Creek find happened on his work site. He would involve himself and gain a bit of notoriety over the years in the Bigfoot world. And he had these crazy videos. He would go shoot with your mother. He would go out to try out his wooden feet out in remote forested areas. And oh, the yarns he would spin, your assumption would probably be, oh, it's highly likely Dad actually started this whole thing and it got away from him. I mean, I don't know. You would have to put yourself in their shoes. But at the end of the day, that's all it was, an assumption. Because even with all of the crazy stuff he would say and do over the years, one thing he never did was claim that he made the original Bluff Creek tracks. And furthermore, to button this all up, if Ray was Bigfoot and Bigfoot was Ray, if he birthed this legend, explain why John Green had a tracing of a footprint from the Ruby Creek incident that took place 16 years prior to 1958 that he had received from the son of the sheriff's deputy who investigated, sat up on his wall on display in 1957. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one today. This was a short one. We are ramping up to our season finale, and it has taken up a lot of my spare time and energy and like little pieces of my soul. I just want to go out with a bang on this one for you guys who have been so awesome and supportive this season. So I hope you enjoyed this shorty and still got some cool education from it. Today's show was also supposed to be my skeptical episode. I do one every season to keep it fair and balanced. As I got to Ray's part of the story, though, all of the holes punched right through it were surprising, and I had to share that. To be fair, he was still a hoaxer, but to what extent? Whatever part he did actually play, I don't think it was Bigfoot. Too many holes and still too much mystery involved to be so open and shut, which can often be the case with other hoaxes. It was the case with crop circles too. In proven hoaxes, there was still some unanswered questions that not even the hoaxer themselves had an answer for. And it is the case for Bigfoot. There is always more to the story. For instance, in our first example today, Eugene Hendrick was not the only aspect to that story. This was not once upon a time Eugene Hendrick made one set of tracks and scratched up some trees. The end. No. To hear other residents in the area tell it, they have actually seen something large and hairy and bipedal in the surrounding area. And this is from an article that they published at the time, like after the story actually came out. They said, since the Sasquatch statue has been up, I have had several locals come in and say they have seen a strange, very tall-looking creature. I have talked to several farmers that say they have seen something. One of them was out plowing not far from the river and got so spooked they left the tractor in the field and trucked it home. So they're seeing something unexplainable out there. There is hoaxery afoot, to be sure. There's never not going to be someone out there who doesn't find it funny or a financially sound endeavor to pull one over on others. But even if we take out the portion of accounts of bears mistaken for Sasquatch, we're still left with thousands of examples. Were all of them pranks with a guy in a ghillie suit? And now researchers and investigators have gotten so very good at deducing suspected Sasquatch tracks from other animal tracks. Even after removing those, we are still left with thousands of examples. Can we really say that all of them were planted by a hoaxer? Thousands, many of which are placed under remarkable circumstances with remarkable details only noticeable to trained eyes. No, really, I would like to know if is it possible? I would like to team up with you. There is $100,000 on the line, man. I will wrap this up here. You know, I just want to say I have thought about this a lot this season. You know, is it even in the realm of possibility? Are we going beyond that line of possibility now. If you think that yes, it is possible, all the rest of them are hoaxers, that's who's making it, go take a look at the Bigfoot Mapping Project's maps again and reconsider. I have said this before on the show, but on this episode, it's extra poignant. As crazy as it seems, I agree with Grover Krantz's view on this situation. He said, Sasquatch is ridiculous, but the alternative of a hoaxer is impossible. Therefore, the ridiculous must be true. That's it for today. Time for a final note. We all, of course, would love to see hoaxes in this field stop. It sets back progress. It misleads folks genuinely trying to understand what is going on. It makes it hard to know what to accept as true and whether anything can be accepted as true. And it wastes valuable time that researchers could be spending on real cases and discoveries. But it's been around for a long time, and these people aren't going anywhere. So, that is why it falls back on the rest of us to be careful and diligent when presented with new information. Be skeptically open to new evidence. Moving forward, I don't think we should hesitate to question folks who are out here making bold claims. There are plenty on social media and YouTube right now doing just that. I'm sure a few faces come to mind. But if your gut is telling you something is off, it's because you are unconsciously picking that up. Your antenna is sniffing some bullshit. Question them. And if you get anything back in response but a thank you, didn't think about that, or a you might be right, I'm going to reconsider how I'm thinking about this and going about this, run, block, warn others. And for God's sake, call them out if you catch them in an actual act of hoaxery shenanigans. Make a stink about it. You can save a lot of people time, misunderstandings, and even money. And if you do get an admission video out of them, remember to hit that screen record button. You know how things can go missing. And for any hoaxers listening today, instead of going out in the cold, wet forests to leave tracks that will probably get washed away in the rain before being discovered and reported by the unaware hiker, consider instead using your unusually unique set of deceptive skills in a far more productive way. I encourage you to attempt to trick us and the audience on the next edition of Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on June 1st. Truth or Trash is a game show-styled drinking game, basically. Call in with your awesomest, most epic true-life tale or the ballsiest 10-foot fish of a story you can rustle up from the depths of your psyche. Tell it to us live on air, and then we will consider whether it's truth or trash. If we are wrong, what do you win? We all have to take a drink. If we are right, what do you win? The satisfaction of being able to call into this very unique live call-in program and shoot the shit with us. Yay! Again, folks, that is June 1st at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Learn more at ghost.beer. Please follow the Paranorm Girl podcast on social at Paranorm Girl Pod, and make sure you are subscribed over on YouTube to catch these weekly episodes in the flesh, my monthly live streams with Beer, Booze, and Boogeymen, and of course the edited replays of those episodes should you miss our stream. Final note today, I have a very special guest episode coming at you next week. You are never going to believe it. I already did it, and I barely believe it. Doug Hychek of the Untold Radio Network and Monster Quest joins me. No cap, no hoax. Believe it. That is a wrap for today. I will see you guys back here on Tuesday. Until then, stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.